Meeting's called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the March Committee of the Whole meeting for the Community High School District 94 Board of Education, and happy Mardi Gras for those who celebrate. Mission statement, please.
Community High School strives to promote and provide growth experiences in learning, leadership, and living.
Thank you, Rich. Board agreements, please.
Communicating with the media. The board president or designee is the spokesperson for the board to the media. The superintendent or designee is the spokesperson for the district to the media.
Thank you, Lynn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Casey Mayer?
Here.
Ms. Doremus?
Present.
Ms. Munoz?
Here.
Mr. Nagel?
Present.
Mr. Sake?
Present.
Mr. Suniga?
Here.
All right, that brings us to public participation. This is the portion of our meeting where any member of the public may address the Board of Education on any topic. We welcome your comments and will carefully listen to your concerns. We will not be able to engage in a dialogue during public participation, but when appropriate, we will direct the administration to follow up. Presentations are limited to no more than 5 minutes per person, with a total time limit of 30 minutes for public participation. If you are making public comment, please speak slowly so that the translator is able to keep up with you. If you wish to make personal charges or complaints against individual employees, volunteers, or students of the district, we request that you send the board your concerns in writing rather than stating those concerns during public comment. If anyone currently present wishes to make public comment and has not already done so, please fill out one of the comment forms in the back of the room and hand it to someone seated at the table. I've not received any comment cards, but we did receive one electronic public comment. This is from Carrie Vizcogliosi. Regarding the district portrait section of the strategic plan. Good evening. I'm writing to voice some insight about the strategic plan. I have been pleased with how well this vision has come together and have enjoyed the process of participating in the strategic planning committee. As a parent and objective voice, I observed some concern over the DEI vocabulary being introduced in our district. Overall, I saw high numbers in favor of the overall vision, but there was some strong objection in the survey results to adding DEI vocabulary to our district portrait. I think these strong objections deserve to be considered. I urge you, the board, Kurt, and Will, to pause on this particular section of the vision and seek to define very clearly what adding this verbiage will bring to our district. At this point, it seems as though it is adding a bit of division. Even if it's a small group of people who oppose it, it's worth digging in a little more and then deciding whether it would be helpful or harmful to the overall vision, which has been very well received otherwise. One of the comments that came in likened DEI to a, quote, cancer, end quote. I am stating this objectively. I just viewed it as a passionate and descriptive response that deserves some reflection. We have been a wonderful, culturally diverse and inclusive community organically up to this point. I think adding what some people may call political buzzwords to our vision has potential to bring disunity to a very united community, and it's worth some more consideration as to whether it should be added or dropped. Thank you kindly for your time. And that concludes public participation. That brings us to reports and information, teaching and learning, physical development.
Good evening. Tonight we have the opportunity to take a unique look at teaching and learning by focusing on the use of technology in WeGo's physical development department. First, WeGo alum Connor Zapital, who is our physical development division head and varsity assistant football coach, will explain the purpose of technology in physical education. Then he'll talk about the implementation of heart monitors in D94 physical education classes. Finally, physical education teacher Joe Dzinski, who serves as WeGo's varsity football defensive coordinator and strength and conditioning coach, will talk about the use of the Dasher timing system in our beginning and advanced strength classes. And then before we hear about the division's commitment to teaching students how to develop a lifelong healthy lifestyle, I'd like to offer a thank you to two seniors, Chris Correa and Gavin Dyer, who are reporters and photographers for the Wildcat Chronicle. They were the ones who took the photos that are featured in this presentation. And I'm also grateful to English teacher and Wildcat Chronicle sponsor Leslie Fireman for her willingness to collaborate on teaching and learning projects like this.
Thank you, Mary. So really fast, this is a quick little activity if you would like to participate. You do not have to, but in front of you we put one of our heart rate monitors and this little sheet that we are working on with our students to show them their max heart rate level and then the range that they can stay in during class based on our IHT heart rate monitors. So there's 3 zones that the students could be in, the blue, yellow, and red zone, based on that percent of their max heart rate. So if you would like to, you don't again have to do it right now, but in the future, if you would like to figure out what your max heart rate is and then what zone you could be in to live at a healthy lifestyle or to really push yourself into that red or max heart rate zone, I really encourage you to do so. So as you can see, this is just one part of the really exciting technology aspects that we're integrating into PE is these heart rate monitors that we are so thankful for your approval last year that we got for these. We're really focusing on these 3 main aspects for tracking their fitness levels over the course of not just the semester, but we're starting to implement and collect that data to look from when they start as a freshman all the way through to when they end as a senior. And then this also is getting us to implement and set their own personal goals for each student based on what class they're in or their lifestyles and what they want to achieve moving forward. And then lastly, just really pushing for the students to understand the connection between the effort and performance in whatever PE class they end up choosing over their course of their 4-year span here. So with the heart rate monitors and our new dasher timing system, these are the 6 aspects that we're really focusing on within our curriculum across all of our PE classes. Again, that personalized fitness tracking so that the students can have that real time feedback while they're in class for their activity level, along with everything that we've been doing with the strategic plan is really just trying to actually collect that data to show the students where they're at and how they could potentially improve or what they can do steps-wise to improve that when they leave high school and everything. Because most students nowadays we're seeing have some type of smartwatch. So really just trying to get them to relate to how to use that, or for some of our students, how they close the circles, what does that even mean for their Apple Watches. So really just trying to get that and using that data for it. And then you can see the other talking points we'll kind of go through as we go through this presentation, but one that we don't really touch on too much is the objective assessment and grading. This really has helped us, and we've seen improvement in overall student scores just to kind of show them and give the data and be like, all right, well, this is where you started at, this is where you're at currently, how can we improve? So it's really helpful to, again, show that real-time feedback that we use for grading to really help push the students when they're making their own fitness goals. So purpose of these heart rate monitors, why we're trying to really implement them, again, it's really to just get the students to understand that effort and intensity aspect of class. We've kind of got away from it, especially when COVID hit. It just kind of threw everything for a loop, and then coming back, we kind of saw a drop off in that intensity and the effort in PE classes. So we're really trying to build that back up and really show them the benefits of their fitness, maintaining that, and what they can do to reach certain goals for whatever they set for themselves. Plus, it just really holds them accountable, keeps them engaged in that class. I actually personally sat in a sophomore academy class, and they were having a fun competition in a basketball unit actually. So they were playing the game, but then they were also competing to see who could get the highest heart rate during that game, which that wasn't the whole point, but I appreciated that effort that they were going for. But it's just kind of those learning points and really just kind of teaching them and showing them like, that's good, but like, one, how and what are you doing to get there? And two, do you really want to sustain that max heart rate for a long period of time? Probably not, because it's actually ultimately not good for you in the long run. You only want to spend a certain percent of that activity in that zone. So it's really just trying to focus on that with all of our students, really the main purpose that we got these for them to utilize. So how that works, so you can see right on your heart rate, it displays it in real-time feedback. So especially for a teacher, the colors are very vibrant. So like right now, I'm obviously having a heart attack because I'm at 137 over here, freaking out talking to all of you. So I'm in that yellow zone just standing here, which is really wild. But again, you can kind of see that different aspect for it, and it helps the teacher kind of keep an eye on the students and then interact with them, be like, hey, Giovanni, I see that you're only in the blue over there. Maybe we should work on something that we can do on our downtime to kind of really step up our activity level in this class. Or like just having those conversations to see like, okay, so why are we not moving very much today? What's going on? Something happening? So it's just one way that we're really using these heart rate monitors as well. Plus, again, it just encourages them to stay in that zone based on whatever goal that they set for themselves. So a lot of different ways that we're really utilizing these, and that's just the simplest way for students, is that they get that real-time feedback, and then it just syncs up to our laptops so that the teachers can go through and look at all that data over the course of all of the classes as well too. So there's obviously loads of benefits for heart rate monitors and keeping track of your heart rate. These are just kind of the big points that we look at. It's just really focusing on that cardiovascular awareness for the students that they don't really sometimes know about. Again, the whole idea of this is really just trying to motivate them, trying to put the ball in the students' court, getting them to try to set their own goals and push themselves in class instead of us kind of, in a sense, what they would say, nagging them all the time. So we're really just trying to motivate them to take accountability for their fitness levels in class. Hand it over to my partner, Mr. D.
All right, good evening. So the Dasher timing system is a system that we were able to acquire through the Grant Foundation. This timing system allows us to not only gather what their 10-yard dash or a 40-yard dash, we could also set it up to do different agility drills to get timing on change of direction, but we also are able to see a student's max speed through a sprint. So that's another way that we can use to motivate the students, so that way they can, if I say, hey, your time was 1.27 seconds, that I don't know if that's good or bad, but if they see, oh, I'm hitting 15 miles an hour, that's something that they understand. That's something that's tangible, that they can go and say, okay, in a car, this is what 15 miles an hour is. So it gives them a real life comparison. How do I play the video?
Just hit the arrow.
No. All right, so here's an example of us using our timing system. This young man is, as you can see, at the start where he is.
Just hit the back to do it again.
At the start, I've got my phone out. It's connected to my phone. And as soon as the individual starts going, the laser is broken. At the 10-yard mark and at the 30-yard mark, the laser again is broken, and it can give me feedback automatically to my phone, and it's a whole lot easier to track than trying to go from individual to individual. We were able to do a collaboration with the science unit using physics, or hold on, I'm gonna slide ahead of myself. So this is again an example, gives real-time feedback for individuals, but also we're connecting this to the weight room, seeing how if an individual is stronger, they'll be able to produce more force and run faster as well.
Do you want to click
So this is a collaboration that we did with the,
And then
So-
you can just hit that arrow to go to the next picture. This is from our Instagram, Facebook page. I couldn't find the old book.
all right, so like I said, this is a collaboration with our science department. One of our physics teachers wanted to use this as a lab for students to see what acceleration was like. So they were able to run that 10 yards. So they can see what they're obviously starting out 0, but they can accelerate to whatever speed. And I believe inside the lab there was, if I can accelerate over 10 yards, this would be my top speed. And we're able to connect that to science as well.
There's just lots of benefits that we've been trying to incorporate, not just in our department, but we're really just trying to take it to the entire school, as well as you saw with our physics class. And actually, it was a really cool collaboration that they were using. That was actually a student teacher that we have here who is now working for the district. He was a student teacher, Quinn McKenzie, who came up with this whole idea and really reached out to us to work on this collaboration. Cool opportunity for us to kind of tie in both the physical. So all in all right, health benefits using this different type of technology, heart rate monitors, the dasher timing system. I haven't really talked about it, but there's a picture in that corner right there. Even our iPads with our team builder that we've been using in the advanced strength and beginning strength courses. It's our software system that we have to keep track of students' lifts, keep track of their maxes, things like that. So all of this different technology that we've been including into PE is really just trying to, again, benefit our students. Really trying to increase that participation, increase the engagement. We're trying to get away of that old school mentality of we're just going to go, we're just going to play. We're really trying to show them that there are a lot more benefits and things that they can do and realize by the time that they leave and graduate from us here at WeGo. And then really our whole big push is just those lifelong fitness habits. What can you do to stay active outside of high school for the long term, whether it's playing pickleball, which is awesome right now, going for a nice long run, working out. Every student is different, so we're just trying to give them those tools to be successful. And then these heart rate monitors are benefiting that so that they can keep track of their own fitness in the future as well. Quick little screenshot. This is what the students receive via email after we input all of their heart rate monitors at the end of each class period. So it shows the goal that the teacher set for them for that class period, and then what their actual data was for what range they were in for the heart rate, and then just a fun little graph to show them over the course of that class period with the actual timestamps, what they did, where their levels were at. So you can kind of see this student right here had a little dip in the middle of the lesson. So this would be a time where, you know, us as a teacher, we could write a reflection to them, or on their reflection piece, write them a little comment, be like, so I noticed in your graph you had a little dip here. Because why? Were you taking a break during the game? Did you take your watch off? Did your watch fall off? Did you end up sitting down? Did you go take a drink of water? Whatever it may be. These are, again, kind of those points where we can be like, so if you see this and then it shot back up, why was that? What were you doing during this time to have that instead of that steady increase or that steady flow for your heart rate for the whole class period? It's just another way to kind of show those students, again, that real life feedback. So implementation, right now the classes are about 1 to 2 days a week using the heart rate monitors, just with the implementation of them and the classes throughout the entire day. There's only enough heart rate monitors to have those classes go simultaneously throughout the entire day. So we found a good schedule where we can at least use them for most classes twice a week. And then they're using them from anywhere from cardio days to the weight room to skill days. Kind of the sky's the limit. It really depends on what they want to focus on and show the students for that class period that day. And then lastly, this is what success overall looks like for us. Again, big push. I've harped on it probably 20 times already, but really just focusing on that student engagement. We really just want to increase that engagement through all of our class periods. Really just kind of, again, show them that they can personalize their own fitness, what changes that they can make, and then have that data, again, through everything that we've been doing as a whole entire school, to compile all of that and then show them that real life data over the course of their whole entire career here at West Chicago. And I just say thank you very much for supporting us.
Thank you.
Questions about the highlight? Beautiful. Justine and I will come by to
Well, thank you for your presentation.
That was awesome.
It's
Thank
very
you.
cool to see the way you're using technology to help those students.
Thank you. Hopefully none of you are
Thank you. That was very good.
Sure, we can do that. You want to do that next time? Sure. Okay. We'd like to make a minor change to the reports and information order and jump right into the strategic plan at this point.
So I'll start us off before our guests present here. I want to make sure we respect your guys' time as well. So the Board of Education identified 3 goals and indicators in order to evaluate the effectiveness of my leadership and overall performance throughout the 24-25 school year. One of the goals was develop a strategic plan process and timeline and present this information to the Board of Education no later than January 31st of 2025. Tonight, I'm happy to report that we will be presenting the final draft of our future strategic plan to the Board of Education. The journey to get here started on August 6th, when I initially presented to the board 2 options for a consultant to help facilitate this process. 7 months later, I can honestly say with confidence that the board made the correct decision in approving Sod Waddell Consulting. The team assembled to develop this plan consisted of 54 members, which included students, teachers, support staff, parents, administrators, community members, and board members. At each step along the way, we solicited feedback from all stakeholders in the form of middle school focus groups, in-person meetings, electronic surveys, and community feedback sessions. Prior to bringing this final draft to the board, 1 final survey was administered in order to seek feedback on whether our stakeholders could support the plan being presented. In an overwhelming display of confidence, 95% of those surveys stated that they could support this plan. In your board packet, you will find the 7-month timeline we took to get to this evening, as well as a draft of our strategic plan. Here this evening to present this plan are our 2 student board representatives and 1 parent who graciously agreed to be here this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our students.
Hello, everyone. Today we'll be covering the basis of the District 94 strategic plan. Being a part of this wonderful experience, it has felt very engaging as I enjoyed the in-person meetings to connect with teachers and others to talk honestly about what we need to change or reestablish in this school. And I feel that everyone contributed to the process and the product equally.
I would agree. It was very nice to be included in the process and give real thoughts from teachers and students who are embedded in the everyday life at WeGo. It was great to develop something unique to our district that applies to students now and in the future.
We truly enjoyed the experience, and now we want to talk about the end product. The mission that we came down to is to ignite a passion for learning, foster leadership and responsibility, and empower all learners to live their personal best. And the motto stays the same, to be learning, leading, and living.
The new mission statement is meant to fit all students and prepare them for whatever path they choose to take after high school. The vision statement is that today's Wildcats will become tomorrow's leaders, designers, and builders by contributing to an ever-changing and challenging world, honoring individual and cultural differences and well-being, striving to achieve personal growth through a pathway leading to academic excellence, and demonstrating responsibility and accountability for their own learning and success.
The vision is about covering what academic excellence means to us as a school, but also on an individual level, and making sure we take responsibility for defining and accomplishing our own individual success.
The graduate portrait states that graduates will be critical thinkers, inclusive collaborator, effective communicator, responsible decision maker, self-directed and confident learner, empathetic and resilient friend. The emphasis here is on making Wildcats good students, but also making us good people, which is very important for life after high school.
The educator states that the educators will be student-centered advocates, team players and collaborators, lifelong learners, ethical decision makers, problem solvers, and empathetic and resilient mentors. And a point that was most stressed on would be being a lifelong learner, since in the future we will feel strong in our ability to keep learning and pursuing our careers.
For the system portrait, District 94 will support continuous improvement, relationships and safety, innovation and relevance, learner interest, voice and choice, collaboration and engagement, and stewardship and accountability. We want to ensure our district is aligned with the community, parents, teachers, and students so that we can all grow together.
Lastly, the Wildcat core values would be well-being and cultural awareness, excellence in all endeavors, growth through respect, service, and trust, and opportunities for innovation and exploration. And as you can see, the core values spell out WeGo as well.
Goal 1 is about student growth and achievement to ensure all students have a personal pathway to academic success. We want to equip students, staff, and families with programs, procedures, and practices to close academic achievement gaps. And we also want to build a competency-based curriculum to establish student pathways that lead to success after high school.
This goal ensures that we all have our own personal pathway and we all have our own definition of where we would want to be in the future. The second goal is student sense of belonging and accountability. It provides all students with a relevant, rigorous, and respectful and reflective learning environment. It provides students with programs, procedures, and practices to close current social, emotional, and physical non-academic gaps, and improves attendance, chronic absenteeism, engagement, and motivation through the identification, training, and support for using innovative instructional practices, programs, and services.
Our intention with this goal is to make school a place where all students want to be because they feel safe and accepted, which allows students to get a lot out of their high school experience. Goal number 3 is about communication and employee sense of belonging and accountability. We want to nurture a workplace where employees feel connected, motivated, and accountable. We want to retain our most successful employees through competitive compensation, career development, professional growth, and recognition. And we also want to enhance the use of data collection, analysis, and reporting to communicate with students, staff, families, and the community to understand changes in performance over time.
This is critical to create a place to work and to teach so that students feel motivated to learn. I've had so many great teachers here, and it is important that we keep creating great teachers and keeping them here at WeGo. And goal 4 is communication, engagement, and partnerships. We partner with families in the community to provide all learners with support and real-world experiences, and it provides opportunities for families and the community to engage with the school and the district, and partner with feeder elementary school districts to ensure students are ready for high school.
Ensuring good communication with our associate districts makes the transition from 8th to 9th grade much smoother for students and their families. And lastly, goal 5 is financial stewardship and resource alignment. We want to commit to effective operations and use of resources to align with the district's focus on student success. We want to reimagine the use of time, space, technology, and financial resources to better meet the future needs of students and enhance both teaching and learning.
Lauren and I have both enjoyed 4 years of this amazing renovation. It makes us proud to be Wildcats. This goal is intended to align our resources so all students feel the same way about their school going forward. That concludes the strategic plan, and I'd like to introduce Megan Dusing, who will share her perspective on the process as both a parent and an educator.
Hey, good evening. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for you all allowing me to be here and speak to you for a little bit. Thank you to Dr. Johansson and Dr. Dwyer for inviting me. As Kashika said, I'm Megan Dusing. I happen to be Lauren's mom, which I'm very proud of. Lauren obviously is a senior here. I also have a daughter here who is an 11th grader. So I am very invested in the community. I also have the unique perspective of clearly, obviously, living in the community, being a parent in the community, but I am also a speech pathologist specialist at Benjamin District 25. This is my 18th year working there in the district. So I am a linguist by trade. I educate the students right before they come to you, and so I can get very long-winded. So if you need to get the hook, just tell me to stop talking, because when I get passionate about something, I keep going. And I also, not to brag, but just to give perspective, I also have a Master in Business Administration. So to me, being a part of this process from an educator perspective and from a business perspective was really exciting and unique. And I will say that, I think I said it during the process, I was able to attend all of the in-person sessions. My former superintendent at Benjamin District 25 was incredibly grateful and supportive, and grateful that I was going to be a part of this process, so he granted me professional leave to be able to attend all 3 days, which I thought was awesome. And I said it again, one of the days that we were here, the most impactful day to me was the first in-person day that we had, where all of the data was presented. And the teams of teachers and administrators and people who put that data together did such a fantastic job. We had 3 breakout sessions and went to each of those to kind of learn where the district is now. And it was, you kind of can't deny the data. When you see the numbers and it's traceable, and you see historically where we came from a technology perspective in terms of just, stuff that I don't even understand about technology, but how slow things were to how fast they are now, and we all know that impacts all these kids every day. And the attendance data was so great, and just the engagement and what kids by demographic or gender or, language spoken, what they participate in and what they do, that was just such awesome information, and it really gave us a great basis for, okay, these are this is what we're dealing with. These are who we have to be mindful of throughout this whole process. And then moving into the next area where it was like, okay, this is where we are. The next in-person day was, okay, where do we want to be? And what does that look like? And what are the goals? And where do we see ourselves? And what is important to us? And then into the third day, it was kind of like, okay, so now how are we going to get there? What are the words that are going to stand behind the decisions that we made? It was very awesome to be in a room of, I'm going to guess there were 100 of us-ish. 60-something, okay. It was full. This room was full. Every table was full, and we had about 8 people at a table, and it was very cool the way that we knew him as Perry. Perry ran the process for us as kind of saying, okay, this is the activity. You guys are all going to do this as an individual. And then you're going to get together with your table, and you're going to come to a kind of a consensus at your table of 8. And then we're going to share out to the room and get everybody in the room to kind of share what they thought. And you kind of think there's no way you're going to get all these people in this room to come to consensus. But by doing it in that very systematic way, we did kind of all feel at the end of the day that we could at least agree on some portions and how to move forward. You all should be very proud of the teachers that were here. They were honest, they were intelligent, they were insightful. You should be incredibly proud of the students that were here. Every time we came, we were grouped with a different group of people, so I had a chance to interact with almost all the students, and Lauren and I were never in the same group. I think Kashika and I were in the same group one day. But just to hear their insight and their what's meaningful to them, and it was a very cross-cultural group, so you got to see perspectives from all different students, all different grade levels. There were some freshmen in there that were like so well-spoken and so insightful that it was really cool. And just the other parents and seeing their perspectives, people who were not educators, people who were educators. So all in all, it was a fantastic process. And I think that Perry was the right guy to lead us through it. As you said, everybody felt equally voiced. And nobody really felt afraid. We were in a group together too, and nobody felt afraid to say, you know what, I don't agree with that. And here's why. And those opinions were just as important as the opinions of the people who did agree with the whole process or what was being said. And I look at this end product, and I know where it started, and I can say, wow, there's definitely some things that we said and we agreed on and we stuck through the whole process, and then there's some things that I think came out of just that last Zoom call that we had that I didn't see reflected in anything up until then. So it was a very transformative process and a very evolutionary process. But I think the most important thing, and probably this is the challenge for you guys as the board, is that these are just words on a paper at this point. They have a lot of meaning to the people who developed them, but if we don't do anything with this paper, then they just remain words on a paper. And again, Lauren will graduate this year, my younger daughter Allison will graduate next year, but I'm not going to retire for probably 10 more. So I will still be working in a feeder district. So the outcomes and the the future development of this district remains really important to me beyond just my children going to school here. And I think Dr. Dwyer knows that I'm a part of the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee as well. So, if anybody has any questions for me about my perspective, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm just so grateful to have been a part of the process, and I'm really, really looking forward to how this evolves. And I know this can't all be done in a day, or maybe even a year, but just the fact that we have a blueprint to move forward, I think is really exciting. So, thank you for your time.
All right, questions or comments on the presentation and the draft strategic plan?
Well, you did an amazing job, and your enthusiasm kind of spreads to all of us. I appreciate that.
I have one comment. We talk about closing the academic achievement gap, and I always worry when we have something like that, because you can close the gap by raising the lower level, but statistically you can also close the gap by lowering the upper level. So we should keep in mind that the goal isn't to close the gap, but it's to lift everybody up. So I don't think that's a good way to put our intention.
You suggest rephrasing a little bit on that?
I would agree with that very strongly.
So the achievement gap is something that is common vernacular in the educational world, right?
Understand. Doesn't
So-
make it right.
I'm not saying that it does. I'm just trying to give you an explanation and rationale for why we chose it. So when we talk about closing the achievement gap, it's not about not stretching our higher achievers. It's about continuing to stretch and push, but also providing additional supports for those students who have not been able to academically perform the way in which we believe they're capable of doing it, and providing those supports to lift them up and elevate them to that level. I mean, that's essentially the definition of the achievement gap. And when you look at the Illinois State Report Card, that is a key metric in that report card, is that achievement gap itself. So ensuring there's continuity between the state report card and our plan, our strategic plan here, I think is essential to make sure that there's common vocabulary between the two.
Other thoughts or comments? I definitely am very impressed with the outcome of that process, and I'm very thankful for the wide community support and involvement through the process. I just had one suggestion relating to Goal 4. Seems like a minor one because it's just about one particular word, but word choice can sometimes make a difference. Where it refers to partnering with our feeder districts, we have a very dynamic relationship with the districts that are connected with us. And I think that rather than saying feeder districts, it's much more indicative of the nature of the relationship to refer to them as partner or associate districts, because feeder, by definition, gives you an image of it's a one-way road. And I don't believe that's the situation we have with the districts that we partner with. So I would suggest we consider maybe changing that from feeder to partner or associate.
I like that too, yeah. Associate district, I think that fits very well, yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments at this point?
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I just feel like students that are as engaged and as mindful and as thoughtful. I was a part of the first presentation, and your energy has just always been super. You make the process so much more seamless and exciting, and I echo what you said earlier, Ms. Dusine, that I was blown away by the student participation, but the fact that you can articulate the way that you did just now and present on it makes me even more excited, because at the end of the day, you are leaders, you are walking the halls, and you can speak to the momentum, the energy, the excitement that all of this brings. So thank you so much for your energy, and I'm just so happy that, again, you are leading the charge, and that your student body will look to you to offer any insight or thoughts on everything that you've experienced and everything that you'll leave behind when you graduate. So thank you for your leadership.
Leaving behind graduating.
Hold on, it'll go super fast from now on.
Any other comments or thoughts or questions? All right, well, thank you very much for your presentation. And this comes back to the board for formal approval at the next meeting then, correct?
The March 18th. And then at that meeting, there will also be a video that will show you that kind of captures the entire process, along with some testimonials of people who participated. And then we'll talk about next steps.
And we can begin the real fun of making it reality.
The real work, yeah.
That'll be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think this was originally expected to be like a 5-year plan. Is that correct? Do we have that documented anywhere? You would call it the WeGo District 94 Strategic Plan, but we haven't really assigned any time frame to that. Is that something we need to do?
It was called WeGo 2030. So the whole idea was planning for the year 2030. And then in the action steps, there'll be key action steps within each goal that will be laid out in month, year increments. So there might be certain action steps that are implemented the first 2 years, and some that don't start until year 2 and go to year 5. So once we get into the action step and the action planning phase of it, that'll give us more of a timeline as to when we anticipate these goals to start and when we anticipate them to be.
Okay, so a little more detail going into that.
So that'll start once it's approved then?
That starts once it's approved. So the plan has to be approved first, and then the timeline and action planning starts after that. We have 2 more sessions on the books with Perry in April, and that's the action planning. We'll all have goal champions or team leads, 2 per goal, that will then bring in staff, teachers, and support staff to form small committees to help establish those metrics and those action steps so we can start to work towards those. But that'll come after this is approved.
All right, well, I think you certainly, as you alluded to in your introduction, I think you certainly have achieved what was laid out for you in your first year of superintendency here, and so far so good.
So, thanks.
All right, that looping back around, that brings us to summer construction update. Dan.
Thank you. So the Board of Education approved renovations for the upcoming summer, which included the renovations of the 3rd floor bathrooms, the replacement of ceiling and lighting, and the building of a transition apartment. Allied Facility Partners released the bid to the public on January 7, 2025. We had 2 walkthroughs for available contractors. Then we had the bid opening on January 28th. At that time, we did not receive an appropriate amount of bids to complete those projects. So as such, we reissued the bid and had another bid opening on February 14th. At that bid opening, we did receive enough bids to complete those projects, as noted for the 3rd floor bathrooms, replacement ceiling and lighting, and the building of the transition apartment. So with regards to the bids and the projects noted above, we have a financial summary of those projects. The transition apartment total was $1.2 million. The 3rd floor bathrooms was $433,000. Ceiling and lighting was $379,000, for a total of just under $2.1 million. Allied Facility Partners and DLA are still reviewing all of the summer projects and the overall cost. As a reminder, the other planned projects for the summer, including the south parking lot, stadium lighting, and roof work, which the board already approved last month. With consideration to the budget approved construction amount of $3 million, the pricing and the estimates that we have received, we do not believe we're going to be able to complete all the projects that we had planned for this summer. We're still working through the details with Allied Facility Partners and DLA to determine the best scope of work for the summer. Any projects that are not completed this summer would be moved until next summer. At this point, it appears that the parking lot will be the project that will get moved to next summer, as some of the estimates that we are receiving are higher than expected. And so we think next summer, if we go out a little earlier, maybe change some of the scope of the project, we might be able to reduce that cost a little bit and do that project next summer. So with that, we would probably look at the lighting to do this summer. We have Allied Facility Partners going out to get some additional quotes and go through that process for the lights. And then that would get us very close to that $3 million project. So we would bring a recommendation to the board at the March 18th board meeting for the Allied Facility Partners contract, along with the total project cost of a not to exceed $3 million. Any questions?
So the three category projects you show up to about $2 million, then the roof we've already approved and we've contracted that already, or that's still pending?
The roof was, we approved the dollar amount with Olson Roofing, and what that cost is going to be. There'll be additional costs, as you mentioned last board meeting, for the markup for Allied to oversee that project.
So that in addition to the 2 million brings us closer to the 3 million that's been budgeted.
Correct.
And then anything else in there? Was it the
We'll do
stadium
the
lighting?
stadium lighting. Correct.
Okay.
The stadium lighting should be around $400,000.
Okay, so these three projects at 2 million and then two more bring us up to the 3 million.
Correct.
And then the parking lot gets set aside, maybe.
Yeah, set aside until next summer. Correct.
Yeah. So we're utilizing the full 3 million that was budgeted to begin with.
Correct.
Was rather taken aback by the cost of the transition piece of it, not to shed any shade on the need for it, just the pricing seemed to be rather high. Was that expected, or?
That was not expected. That did definitely come in higher than we all thought it was going to.
Transition.
Yeah. Yeah, even we had possible estimates between $500,000 and $800,000, $900,000.
That would have been, yeah, what I was thinking of.
The 1.3 definitely came in a lot higher than we expected.
Is there a possibility we can investigate that further and see what drove that cost?
Yeah, that's definitely what we plan to do with Allied, that we need to bring them in and take a closer look at some of the numbers and see why that was driven up so high.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right then, athletic trainer bid results.
All right, so the contract with the athletic trainer ATI is expiring at the end of this fiscal year. So we issued a bid for athletic trainer services on February 7th. We had that bid opening on February 25th. We had two bidders provide pricing. ATI provided pricing along with another company called Roving Athletic Training Service. ATI provided that lowest bid. Obviously, we've been happy with ATI. They do a great job for our students. So our recommendation would be to move ahead with ATI, and that would bring that to the board at the 18th to get that approved. Any questions?
Questions or comments? Student fees for 2025 to 2026.
As per board policy, the Board of Education is to approve student fees annually. We reviewed the fees, taking a look at some of the other local districts, see what they're doing, talk to leadership in the building, see if we're okay with where the student fees are. Based on all that review, we're recommending no changes for the next fiscal year, and that would be I'd be asking for approval at the March 18th board meeting.
Questions or comments?
Where are we with student fees?
I'm sorry?
Currently, where are the student fees?
Where are the student fees? How much?
Yeah, how much?
Attachment on your agenda.
We're at, what are we at? 289 per student. $307 for freshmen.
Annual student Chromebook purchase, 2025 to 2026.
Each year, the district purchases Chromebooks for the incoming freshmen. Although technology is exempt from the bidding process, the district investigates multiple purchasing options, such as direct with Dell through a purchasing cooperative, as well as requesting quotes from other vendors. The IT department is recommending the same model Chromebook as last year that would have that memory of 8 gigs. The IT department is also recommending 540 Chromebooks, which will provide a Chromebook to all incoming freshmen while also providing enough Chromebooks for backstock. For comparison, the district purchased 541 Chromebooks last year at a cost of $216,941. We are still currently gathering quotes on those, and I will bring a recommendation to the board at the March board meeting. We'll obviously bring the lowest quote that we can find. We do expect them to be a little bit higher this year as compared to last year, mainly because of possible tariffs and things of that nature. Questions?
Train preventative maintenance program renewal.
So the district has 2 chilled water systems. One is a train system that was installed in 1999 and has had a recent motor replacement and has also recently been retubed. The other is a Dakin system that was installed in 2020 with the referendum project. We've had a preventative maintenance program in place for years for the chiller installed in 1999. This renewal was normally around $10,000 to $15,000 per year. The new Dakin system has recently gone out of warranty, and so we are in need of preventive maintenance program for that chiller as well. So Train has provided an updated renewal to include both chillers. The program includes an annual maintenance, tube cleaning, startup, vibration analysis, shutdown, and priority response. Train's program is part of the Omnia Purchasing Cooperative Program, and the Train's program is an annual renewal of $24,891. I would look to bring that to the board at the March board meeting for approval. Any questions?
Questions or comments?
So they do one annual maintenance, and it just seems like a lot of money to me. And maybe you can explain that. So they come out once, and then they're just basically on call if we need them again?
No, they come out multiple times throughout the year. They do startups, they do maintenance, they test shutdowns, they do some of the tube cleaning and stuff like that. So they come out multiple times throughout the year.
Okay.
Again, like for one, it was around, it's been around 10 to 15,000 each year, and so adding another one on kind of doubles that dollar amount.
These are very expensive devices.
They're very, yes.
You want to maintain them.
Yes, they're very expensive, and we want to make sure that they're running properly so we can keep the school running properly.
Less expensive than service calls.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tentative license staffing request for FY26, Julie.
Great, thanks. So this is the time of year when we start to look at staffing for 25-26. The staffing recommendation that you see in front of you is driven by a number of factors, including student course requests, enrollment trends, and program needs. And so you can see on the first page of the memo some of the highlights summarizing any changes. The second page of the memo is going to break it down by division so you can really see where those FTEs fall. Here are the highlights of the proposed changes for 25-26. Overall, we're looking at a reduction of 2.0 FTE from 163.9 licensed FTE in this current school year to 161.9 licensed FTE in the 25-26 school year, which is managed through attrition and department transfers. We are not recommending a reduction in force, a RIF, for the 25-26 school year. Now, what does that actually mean? First, there's a reduction of 1.0 FTE in core lab based on intervention analysis. Second, you're going to notice some adjustments to some divisional allocations. So there's increased interest in art in the humanities department, also in business, which falls in CTE, while we saw a bit of decreased demand in world languages, science, and physical development. And that's pretty typical to see some flux from year to year. We are not recommending a change in FTE for licensed student support personnel based on our current student-to-staff ratios and student needs. And then finally, and this is something new, I want to introduce what I would call a 0.7 discretionary FTE, which is to address unforeseen needs. The intention here is not to use that unless needed. An example would be several times since I've started here, a need will come up where we'll have to request an overload. So for example, our newcomer numbers were significantly higher than we had anticipated, and we had a need to add that section. And so in order to not have any disruption to the services that we provide, having that discretionary FTE already approved allows us to be able to fill that. And that would still, of course, come to the board for approval of the hire for that position. And again, we won't fill that unless needed. The overall financial impact of the 2.0 FTE reduction is an anticipated savings of around $130,000 plus benefits if we based an average teacher salary around $65,000 for the upcoming school year. Just want to open up to any questions there might be.
You're asking for approval for the position, and then you would come back with the person to actually be hired to fill that.
Yeah, and so I would keep the board apprised.
Contingency.
Yeah, if there were a need for an additional section for an overload like we've had in the last couple of years, would certainly keep you apprised of that and then bring back the recommendation for hire through the personnel report.
You have the flexibility to post it and start moving.
Exactly.
So if the need came up the day after a board meeting, you don't have to wait 2
Yeah.
weeks.
And you're right, Rich, that's usually when it happens, right?
And it's budgeted also.
Precisely, yeah, and it allows us to have that flexibility so that, right, those aren't unanticipated costs that are coming up. We already have it accounted for.
Any other questions or comments? DuPage West Cooperative Resolution. Kurt.
So earlier this year, the DuPage West Cooperative Board met to discuss changing its membership from a board to an oversight committee. On February 13th, 2025, the DWC Board passed the agreement to eliminate the DWC Board and have it act rather as an oversight committee. So the DWC Board has been critical in ensuring the needs of our low-incident deaf and hard of hearing and visually impaired students. Through the years, the DWC Board has transitioned from overseeing the daily operations of programs, approving the budget, as well as hiring of staff, to an advisory and informational board. The aforementioned duties are now the responsibility of boards directly overseen by these programs through SACID and LADSI. SACID provides all the vision services for all 92 members of the DWC, as well as all of the deaf and hard of hearing services for the 92 members of the DWC grades PK through 8. As such, a recommendation was approved to eliminate the board as it currently functions and to have it act as an oversight committee. Committee membership will continue to be composed of member district representatives who will meet at least twice annually to review programming and budgeting recommendations. Programming will continue to be provided, and no interruption of services will occur. So the recommendation is the board review the DWC IGA and provide feedback prior to March 18th regular Board of Education meeting, where the item will be placed on the consent agenda. So really, that's just a long way of saying that as a board member on SACID, we still have control over and oversight over SACID. And then the DWC serves strictly as an oversight committee and meets twice a year. So there's no big change. It's just an addendum to the IGA, changing them to an oversight committee, and the control still rests with the superintendents who sit on the board for SACID. So that's all they're looking for. Okay.
So the DWC, there's no administrative employees or anything in that?
No, it's
just service providers,
Yep.
so to speak?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
They're funded through SACID?
Through SACID, correct. And then we fund SACID.
And that brings us to Draft Board of Education Member Handbook.
Okay, so earlier this year, I was provided with a draft of a board member handbook that was created several years ago. Come to find out, some of you drafted it several years ago, so thank you for that. But it was never formally approved by the Board of Education. So the purpose of a board member handbook is to serve as a reference for prospective and current board members. It's not intended to replace or supersede board policy, federal or Illinois state statutes, regulation, or administrative codes. Since we currently do not have an official board member handbook, I'm seeking 1 or 2 board members to work directly with me in order to revise the current document to ensure it reflects the values and needs of our board. Once revisions have made, I will then bring the handbook back to the board for approval. So the recommendation would be to establish a small committee to review the handbook, provide feedback prior to the April 15th regular Board of Education meeting where it would be approved.
Anybody who would be interested in participating in this process?
Yes, I authored the first one, so I'd be happy to review the second.
I would also be interested, but then that pushes us up to 3.
Okay.
Which means we've got some options. We could either open meeting to discuss it, or we can submit suggestions and then have full board discussion. There's a couple different ways we can go about this. Thoughts? Comments?
In looking at the handbook, it seems like a lot of what's in there is already covered by policy and statute. And I was thinking, I talked to Kurt about it, that instead of calling it a member handbook, maybe we call it like a reference guide. And instead of duplicating a lot of verbiage, just refer to the policies, refer to the statutes. The danger is having 2 documents that basically have the same things in them, and then you have to make sure that if you change something, you have to change it down the line, as opposed to taking things. Kurt said it's intended to help a new board member or review to find out where things are. But to me, it would be better to give reference information. So if somebody's trying to figure out, well, how do I do this? Oh, I go and look at that, instead of, well, here's pretty much the same thing duplicated as it would be in the policy handbook. So it accomplished the same thing, but with less redundancy.
I see what you say about the redundancy, but it is nice to have everything in one place so that when somebody has a question and they're brand new, they have one, they won't look at one thing and then have to be referred to look at something else. Everything will be right there for them. I think that the convenience of that is very helpful, especially when somebody's new.
Yeah, I think as long as you have a disclaimer in it that says,
Yeah.
that this doesn't take precedence over policy or anything else, it's really there as much as a quick reference. And it was primarily used initially for new board members coming in
Yeah.
after they were initially elected.
Exactly.
And it was done before they took their seats, so it was legal to have, usually the superintendent, the board president, and the new members of the board would sit together and go through everything. So it was really helpful from that standpoint.
It was done kind of on an informal basis in the past, and it'd be good to kind of formalize the process. This is how we onboard board members. This is the document. This is the process to kind of make it formally board approved, clean it up and everything.
I guess maybe instead of calling it a handbook, we call it a guide or something. Handbook sort of infers that, here's more rules and things you have to follow, like our student handbook. If this is a little bit more ad hoc, then maybe we don't make it as official. Just my thought.
Well, the real question, though, for tonight is structurally, how do we want to manage trying to make the updates and edits to this document so that it's ready to go by the regular April is what we're looking at? We could treat it as kind of what we're doing right now, just have full board discussion on things, or we could break it off into a subcommittee, either open or close, or with less than 2 board members closed. What are people's thoughts?
After reading through it, there's not a huge, there are some changes that need to be made, but they're not substantial. It's some pretty significant, just the structure of the board. There isn't a great deal of change. The committee structure, things like that really impacted it. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to go through.
I've already pulled out some of that.
Right.
So if you have access to the link, you can see updates in real time as we're moving along.
So would your suggestion, Gary, to be take it as an offline process, or how would you, what would be your suggestion?
We can feed the suggestions to Kurt, and the areas that we see that need to be edited. Some are not obvious, some are very obvious, and just feed it to him and let him compile it.
If you're comfortable with the Google Doc format, you can just add a comment on the side and I can see it. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can email me directly what you'd like changed, and we can handle it that way.
And then you can just send us out, okay, here's the latest revision.
Yep.
And then we'll discuss it as a board when it comes back.
In April.
In April.
I could send it out once a week in the weekly update, so that if I get 5 updates in a day, I'm not going to send you an email every update I get. So maybe once a week, I'll send you an update as to the comments I received back, and then the changes.
That seems fair, because it's good to have all of our voices involved in this process, because we've all had different experiences in board service, and so we all look at it a little differently. And, okay, what do I think that a new board member really ought to know about? So I think we all can contribute well from that.
Would it have to be approved by the board? It's not policy. I'm wondering, you know, if we get it to the point where it's good, and we just say, here's what we'll give to new board members and things, and then gives us the ability to change it, update it, tweak it as we need to, rather than bringing it to the board every time we make a change of a word and have it approved. I mean, what are we approving in terms of?
I agree. It doesn't have any force of policy, so why approve it?
Well, it just becomes a living document, I guess.
Yeah.
At the very least, you'd probably want to have something, if not a formal approval, a board consensus as of certain date, so that you can see, as of this date, this book was considered current, so you can make sure that that's the most current version or whatever. So if not a formal approval, some kind of a best by date or
Last
something.
edited date is fine.
Yeah, a last edited date, yeah, that would be, I agree, there should be some type of a date.
So at the very least, then, just a
associated with
board
it.
consensus that,
Yeah.
okay, we've done this editing, and the consensus of the board is we're good with it, so that it's ready to be handed on to any future board members.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing no formal action, but we'll say that the April 15th will be that.
Where it will come to the board, we can
That'll
have
be the date.
discussion, and then see if there's consensus that everybody's good with it. Any other questions or comments? And I do appreciate that document that you folks originally put together. I think it brings the bulk of what we need. It's just a matter of doing some updates. All right, well, that concludes the items on the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone, and once again, happy Mardi Gras. Let the good times roll. You're at the thing tomorrow night, right? Fantastic. How many of us are going to be there?
Got Gary. Gary, you going tomorrow night? Yeah. Gary, Kathy, Lynn, Bob, and then Mary is going to join us. So there's going to be a conversation on pathways.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Definitely looking forward to it.